It's a big weekend of rugby ahead, isn't it? And we now have the teams for all of the URC round 18 matches. So I'm going to go through each game, reviewing the teams and seeing how that changes the picture. Now that we've got the actual lineups, how do we see the matchups shaking out? And I'll just remind you of what each team is looking for in order to get to the quarterfinals, to get seedings for the playoffs, and to get Champions Cup qualification. All of those different permutations I'll run through as well. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers. And as I always say, I love club rugby. There are some brilliant competitions. The reality is it's not nearly as popular as international rugby is, and I'm trying to change that with your help. Give the video a thumbs up to help spread the word. Drop a comment down below as well. Tell me how you see these shaking out. And let me start with, I'll do this in chronological order. I'll go through the fixtures as they're happening this weekend. Tonight at the RDS in Dublin, it's Leinster against Connacht, an inter-pro derby between the two Irish provinces. And, well, for the both teams, let's just remind ourselves, Leinster have wrapped up a home quarter-final already. They've got top four, that is safe. A bonus point win means home semi-finals come into play if teams above them slip up. So that's what Leinster are looking for. Connacht need a bonus point win, really, against Leinster. And even then, they're relying on other results to go their way. So it's looking unlikely, although Connacht fans will be quite happy with the selection from Leo Cullen for Leinster, because he has once again, as with Ulster 2 weeks ago, gone in with a weakened Leinster side. I say weakened, it doesn't, not weak. There's a lot of exceptional players in that lineup, but not many of them that were involved in the Champions Cup final 6 days ago, which you can understand. A game of that intensity and that magnitude, you can totally understand why he would want to give his players a bit of a breather. But how do you feel about that? Tell me down below, because remember, it was a few weeks ago Leo Cullen said they will not do what they've done in previous years, and they will absolutely not be playing weakened teams. He said he's going to go strong for the rest of the season. Are you a little disappointed as a result in the selection when you put this one together with the game 2 weeks ago at Ulster? Are you slightly concerned that history could be repeating itself? For what it's worth, I think they've got a strong enough squad that they should be able to cope and should be able to win this game. I do wonder, though, what Kieran Frawley has to do to get a run out at fly half. I'm delighted to see Sam Prendergast there, but you have to feel, with Ross Byrne not being selected and Kieran Frawley staying in the midfield, that it's probably going to be Ross Byrne for the playoffs, isn't it? Or might they actually, at some point during the game, maybe 50 minutes or whatever, take Sam Prendergast off and shuffle Kieran Frawley in and give him some time in the 10 jersey. Interesting times in that particular shirt for Leinster. Let me know what you think. But as for Connacht, no Mac Hansen, no Bundy Aki. Their two best players not available. That's a blow. Santi Cordero at fullback. I mean, if Leinster kick loosely, he will punish them. He's got ridiculous footwork. So that's one to watch. But I mean, despite the weakened side, I still see this going Leinster's way. Let me know if you think differently. Connacht have got a sniff, though. As for the Stormers against the Lions, and what do the Stormers need? Well, they've got a quarter-final secure. 1 point guarantees also that they get top 6, which is the only way that at this stage, that's the only way of absolutely guaranteeing at this point that you're playing Champions Cup rugby next season, because top 7 get Champions Cup, thanks to the Sharks winning the Challenge Cup and taking one of the spots. And if the team that finish 8th in the playoffs go on and win the URC, then they take the spot off of 7th place as well. So top 6 definitely in the Champions Cup. 1 point is what the Stormers need for that. Lions, they need a win. And a win secures them a quarter-final. A bonus point win puts 7th and even 6th potentially in play. So Champions Cup qualification as well. I do wonder if the fact that the Lions need the win a bit more, I wonder what influence that's going to play, because it's quite similar when I come on to the other South African derby match. How much of a role do you think that's going to play? Because tiny margins can make big differences at the elite end, which is where we are. That said, it's a pretty tidy Stormers team that are lining up, isn't it? Really interesting to see Fenter at hooker and Feinberg and Gomazulu at fullback as well. I do wonder if, certainly in the case of fullback, maybe also in the case of hooker, whether do you reckon Rassi Erasmus has just had a little word with John Dobson here? I'm thinking about these two. Can you play him there? Maybe, but obviously Damien Willems is a massive miss, but it's still a pretty handy team, isn't it? Interesting seeing Evan Roos again in the fetcher role. Did very well in that last time out, so we'll see. As for the Lions, it's just, if I could summarise the Lions in one word, wheels. They have just got wheels. Gas to burn. This could be a really fun game. Bearing in mind, they have to win, and also scoring tries and winning, getting bonus point win, would be huge for the Lions and their bid for Champions Cup rugby. And if they want to start holding on to all their players and not have them pilfered by the other South African sides, then Champions Cup rugby would be a great way to try and establish that. So for them, love Frank Horn, love Morne Vandenberg, Nahamba as well. I mean, and also JC Pretorius, not someone that I was completely across, but I mean, I've seen him likened to Quagga Smith, and I get it. He is so much fun to watch. I really enjoy watching the Lions. I can't wait to see this game. Should be really good fun. I still think the Stormers will have enough, but like I said, that psychological element could be important. I think it's on at the same time, isn't it, as Benetton against Edinburgh. By the way, Benetton, please, can we just have a graphic with your team? They keep doing videos, and as a result, I go to their website, and it's like someone's done it in Microsoft Word. I could like print it out on a dot matrix printer, if you remember them. It's an old reference. Anyway, what have we got? Yeah, Benetton against the Sharks. Benetton and Edinburgh are both in exactly the same position. So what they need is a win to secure a quarter-final. A loss puts a quarter-final spot at risk. A bonus point win, and they could go up to 7th or 6th and get those guaranteed Champions Cup spots as well, potentially. A draw would almost be the worst possible situation for both of these teams, because they could both be out of the hunt if that happens. Benetton, I've got a stacked lineup. Iachizi and Lorenzo Canoni on the bench. That is some serious firepower in your back row options off the bench. Although no Seb Negri for this one, no Rutzer as well. The 9-10 just worries me a little bit about Benetton. That link between a really good pack and some really good outside backs is not as good as it could be. When you look across to Edinburgh, it's again, just like with Benetton, international pack stacked with great players. Some question marks around the back three, but and the back line, but that's only because of the injuries. The number of injuries and unavailability that Edinburgh have got in their back line is frightening. They could field basically an international back line out of the people that they can't play in the game tomorrow. So that's a big concern for them, although Duhan van der Merwe being back, that's a big boost. But yeah, no Darcy Graham, no Emiliano Buffelli, and the list goes on. So I predicted the other day a narrow Edinburgh win. At home, Benetton, and with that team, Benetton should have enough. Maybe I'm stupid. I'm still going to go for a narrow Edinburgh win. Just gut feeling. Tell me if you disagree. We go on to Scarlets against Dragons. I mean, for these two teams, what's on the line? Nothing. Challenge Cup seeding, and that's it. I mean, it's of so little consequence. Aside from, obviously the fans will want to win, the players will want to end the season well. Dragons, as I record this, haven't even put up their team. Every other team in the whole URC has put their side up, but Dragons, as I record this, have not put their team up online. So I can't even talk about or compare the lineups, unfortunately. So I'm just going to move on and talk about the Sharks against the Bulls, the other South African derby. This is a big game. And you did wonder, what are the Sharks going to do? Final game of the season for them. Final chance in front of their home crowd. They've gone big. They've got a lot of internationals in the side. They've got that front row, Nche, Mbanambi and Koch, who did so much damage to Gloucester. Well, that's the last game of their season for Gloucester. They've got to think about that front row, have nightmares about that front row for the next few months. How are the Bulls going to be feeling about it this tomorrow evening? It's interesting because there is those players in. There is, though, no Makazole Mapimpi, no Ebenezer, no Grant Williams from the side that won the Challenge Cup last week. Grant Williams in particular, I thought he had a great game. We all know him as a rapid, occasional winger, scrum half, sniping player, but I thought his tactical kicking was brilliant as well. And they had no Jaden Hendrickson, no Grant Williams as well, still no Lacanio Am. So they've still got a lot of massive experience, World Cup winners unavailable to them, but they've gone pretty loaded apart from that. but not quite as loaded as the Bulls team. And when I look at the Bulls side, where my eye is immediately drawn is that back three, Leroux, Moody, Arendse. That's as good as the URC gets in the back three. And the back row as well. So well balanced. Van Staden, Lowe, Hanekom. It's just class. The Bulls, the challenge for them is, we know they're going to bring the heat in attack. Can they shut things up in defence? Can they tighten things up? They need to. They obviously, you can imagine when they put their training week together, they dedicate a lot of time to attack. Do they need to just twist that a little bit and ramp up the defence? That will be the big challenge, not just for this game against the Sharks, but going into the playoffs as well when you come up against big-time opposition. I do think the Bulls will win this one. They haven't won their last two games down in Durban, but I talked about this in relation to the Stormers. I'll say it in relation to the Sharks as well. When you don't have to win, but you would like to win, and you're up against a team that are desperate to win, and the Bulls with that carrot of top two finish, potentially top finish. Yeah, that's the way things stand. Sharks, this is a total free hit. There's nothing on the line for them. They've got Champions Cup rugby next season. There's really nothing they can... Winning means nothing more than pride, which is a significant factor. But the Bulls, home quarter-final is secure, a bonus point win, and they get home semi-final guaranteed. And they could go top if Munster do not win. I'll come up onto that game in a minute. But home quarter-final, home semi-final, and a potential home final as well is massive. That would be huge for whichever team gets those spots. And the Bulls will be desperate to not have to leave Pretoria from now till the end of the season. That would be huge and a daunting task for whoever has to go and play them. So I think that motivation and some of the players that they've got, I think will make the difference for the Bulls. Although, as I've said, second against 13th, it shouldn't really be a debate, should it? But that tells you just how much the Sharks, in the URC at least, have underachieved. Let's move on to Munster against Ulster then. What a game this is going to be. The final game of the weekend. One of two games that are going on tomorrow evening. 5 p.m. kickoff UK time. Or is it 5:30? I can't remember which. Anyway, probably says there. I can't read it. 5:30? Is that? I need glasses, I think. Anyway, point being, what do the teams need? Munster, they know a win of any kind, and they are the number one seed in the URC. They're the holders of the tournament, and they will not have to move away from South West Island, whether that's at Thomond Park or the Gaelic Sports Stadium down in that way that's a bit bigger, which they may have the chance to play at. I forget the name of it. I apologise, Munster fans. But a win of any kind, and they are number one ranking. Ulster, meanwhile, they need 2 points for the Champions Cup. That's quite a significant carrot for them. They do not want to lose and not pick up bonus points, because that puts Champions Cup at risk. That would be a disaster for Ulster. They need, if they win, then a Stormers loss, and they could get up to 5th for Ulster. But for them, they're going to be in the playoffs. Champions Cup is the objective for Ulster. As for the teams, Munster, they bring back Peter Amani, they bring back Simon Zebo, they bring back RG Sneeman, Archer, Scannell, Rory Scannell, that is, Sean O'Brien. They all come in and look at the bench. Tom Ahern, Gareth Coombs, Gavin Coombs, and John Hodnett on the bench. That is, that'd be a class back row for any team, and they've got it on their bench. They are coming into form. They've had good form for a while now, but they're getting big game players back. They've got a lot of depth. They've got great players, not even in the Matchday 23, that other teams would love to have, and they're in front of their home crowd. That's a pretty daunting challenge for Ulster, but they keep an unchanged team from the side that beat Leinster at home 2 weeks ago, and I really like the look of that back row. Izuchukwu and McCann and Timoney. I feels like Ulster have found a bit more of an identity, and they've also found a back row that can take them on for a few years. They've been searching for the right balance and bringing guys in and big money overseas signings. It feels like they've got it now. And they've got good players all across the team. Berg Stewart McCloskey in the midfield with Will Addison. He's going to be coming back to England next year. Mac Lowry on the wing. Sorry, I'll stop all this. Ridiculous. And Nathan Dork on the bench. I will stop now, I promise. I think it's going to be a Munster win. I think Ulster will be worth a bonus point. 2 bonus points. That would be a result for them. Go on then. They're going to get 2 bonus points and get Champions Cup rugby. And finally, we've got Cardiff against Ospreys. Ospreys, what do they need? Ospreys need a big win against Cardiff. Not just a win. They need to win big and then hope that other teams above them all slip up. It's possible. It's not guaranteed, but they could make the quarterfinals. But they need to go to Cardiff, and this is part of a double header that's happening at the Cardiff Football Stadium. They need to go to Cardiff and score lots of tries. So this could be quite a fun game to watch. And they've got Jack Morgan and Justin Tipperick in the back row. That's pretty class. They've got good players everywhere. I think they'll win. I think they'll just go for it. The Welsh Shield is potentially on the line. That's all that's there for Cardiff, really. Cardiff are playing for nothing. A bonus point win, and they could take the Welsh Shield and a bit of pride from Ospreys. Bit of a sorry season for the Welsh sides. Can Ospreys salvage anything from it and make it to the playoffs? Unlikely, but possible. Team's good enough to score a bunch of points against Cardiff, but Cardiff are no slouches either. Yeah, Ospreys are going to win. I don't think they'll get into the top 8. There you go. That is the URC for this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm not going to be watching much of the rugby tonight. I'll keep an eye on the scores, but I'm going to be watching Northampton Saracens. I'll have a video in the channel on the Premiership semi-finals coming up. But it's going to be all about the knockout stages for the URC soon. Thank you for your support on the channel. Maybe this will be the video I earn your subscription. I'll see you on the next one.